welcome to another episode of My Journey to the Top. It's such an honor for us to be here today, and I have a pleasant surprise. One of my favorite leaders will be a guest for today's episode, and really an inspiring leader changing the world of work. She's an author of the book that we have, Women at Work, and she's an MBA graduate, currently working as a managing director at Robit, and a mining leader, and also an award-winning leader who has been nominated as part of the top 100 leaders in Africa. And she has enormous list of accolades. So today we've got the honor of having Rumisha Chaithram with us today. So it's an honor, it's a privilege to have you, Rumisha.
Thank you, Benny. And I'm a huge fan of what you do and exceptionally grateful to be here today.
Oh, thank you so much. What's an honor. And also, as I mentioned, Women at Work, such a great great work that Rumisha has done, and I know for sure that we will hear what else it's in the pipeline that she's working on and having. So, in terms of our program, My Journey to the Top, it's all about the journey of great leaders like you, and for us, it's really quite critical to understand your journey. So, if you can maybe take us through your background, how did it start for the world to be blessed with such an incredible leader?
Thanks for that. How much time do we have?
We have enough time.
Yeah. Well, my journey I started off as a supply chain professional, and I did not dream of becoming an author, a speaker, a leader in the mining sector. So it was by accident.
Wow.
What happened was I moved into the mining sector and I headed up inventory management. And it was by accident that I was standing in for a vice president, and I was engaging in his meetings, and he said, "You need to join my team," because I was giving his team advice. So he threw me into a mining role. And as you know, I'm not a mining engineer.
Wow.
And it was how the book started off then. So I started off in mining and I resigned 4 times. It was so bad.
Wow.
As a supply chain professional, I was always respected for the role I did and my output. But in mining, it was completely different.
Wow.
So I was in an environment where I could not voice my opinion. I was there to be there in body, but not, contribute professionally. And the environment wasn't good enough, so I resigned. But when I resigned the 4th time, there was 3 ladies waiting outside my door for hours. So after I was done with my day, they said, "Listen, Rumisha, if you leave, we'll never have female leaders in this role."
Wow.
I've been an engineer for 5 years, 10 years, but everybody says we're not qualified. And that's where my journey started. So I retracted my resignation. It took a lot of willpower.
Wow.
And I basically then said I would stay, but I would do my MBA dissertation, do women at a competitive advantage in the mining sector.
Wow.
And that's how I started. So I remained in the role I was in, and I stayed there for 4 years. When I left, in the first year, I doubled the sales. And the year I left, we were 35% higher than budget. And what I did was I created a group where multiple women could join and was free of charge at the organization. I would teach them how to communicate, how to lead, how to handle conflict, how to leverage your strengths, how to master your technical skills, what is strategy, your 90-day plan, 60-day plan. So I was learning on the go, and that's what happened. And from there, 50% of the women were promoted.
Wow.
So my journey into Macho world really started off by accident. And I guess that your greatest pain is always a reason for your greatest service.
Amazing.
So everything was aligned.
Wow. I think for me, really, especially when you're talking about being there by accident and trying to craft this journey, one of the things maybe that we want to understand is maybe take us through your upbringing as a leader, how that journey from home, school, has prepared you. Because for you, as you say, being a qualified supply chain professional,
Correct.
and then doing a 360, and even being picked up by mining leader, and then ascending up until today. So I think for us, it's quite important part of the journey, just to understand the background and the upbringing.
Yes, no one's ever asked me that question before.
Wow.
So it's a very good question. I come from a town, Lenasia South, the south of Johannesburg.
Wow.
So I have very humble beginnings. My dad was a sole provider, and my mom was a housewife. So in a traditional Indian family, most women were not allowed to work. But as I grew up and finished matric, my dad became quite westernized and gave me a lot more flexibility.
Wow.
So I got my inspiration from him. I was in the automotive industry, and he was a mechanic, and he had a panel beating business.
Wow.
So I grew up watching trucks and masking trucks, and that was my school holidays. But as an entrepreneur, I also looked at how difficult it was
Yes.
in his time. We're talking of 1980s,
Wow.
to navigate the path. And I am the second youngest of 7 siblings.
Wow.
So this is the first time I'm actually disclosing all of
Amazing.
this.
Wow.
So one of the greatest successes, I would think, is when you're the youngest, or second youngest in my case, you observe all the failures of your elders.
Wow.
And you actually mentally prepare yourself. I can remember preparing myself, saying, I will not be dependent on anybody else. I would be financially independent, and I would marry somebody that doesn't drink or smoke. I knew that. Those were the 2 things I knew I had to do.
Wow.
Because in our communities, it was something that happened quite often. Women were suppressed, and obviously you had to depend on your partners. So that's where I come from. I can recall times, and I actually write in one of the chapters, where I did not have it all. I can remember really clearly. I had this episode where my best friend now used to bully me.
Wow.
And tease me because the only thing we could afford at that stage was gumboots in high school.
Wow.
So I was in grade 8, and it was my first year in high school, and the only shoe my mom could get me was a little boy's shoe with a portion of a boot. So the entire class, when I would enter, would tap on the table and say, gumboots, and it was a nightmare for me. And that made me really reflect on my upbringing. So I always have multiple shoes now.
Wow.
And the second thing is, every birthday of mine, I make sure that I buy school shoes for underprivileged kids in different communities. Because when you step into a new pair of shoes, no matter what you look like, you feel worthy.
Wow.
And so that's the narrative. So you've asked me really interesting questions.
I think I love it, because I think that experience, we believe strongly it's part of your journey.
Yes.
And it, as you say, looking at the incredible work that you're doing, incredible organization that you're leading, and the heart, I can see that there's a place where it has been triggered. And listening to this story, it's amazing. And I'm so happy that to be the first person who has asked you.
It's normally not what I'm asked all the time.
Wow,
so fantastic thought.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And with that, how do you describe purpose for you as a leader?
So as a leader, purpose really is around something you enjoy. And I believe that there's a triangle in life. Yeah. You got to have relationships. You got to have something you're passionate about. And you always have to have the money and the wealth aspect. So you can't always be giving in your career and have something that you love, but you're not getting the money. And then you can't be in an environment where you don't have the relationships too. So I don't think many people practice this, but I use this in my own careers. I make sure that the relationships are really good. I am worth what I'm being paid. And obviously I love it. If I don't love it, then that's a triangle that's just not going to balance out. And so that's really important for me. Purpose is about enjoying what you're doing. It will change all the time. So when my teenager wants to decide what he wants to study, I told him, do what you love. Because when you do what you love, the money comes.
Wow.
And I know most people have a lot of taboos around money, but my perspective is we need money in order to trade and live.
100%.
So if you don't have that, how do you contribute? And the more money you have, that's how much more lives you can impact.
Wow.
So it's really important that we have a healthy relationship with money and we understand that money is there for service. But if the money is for greed and that yacht and, eventually the novelty will wear out. But when you have money to serve a bigger, purpose in life, that's when you get the real value. And in my opinion, your purpose changes. The greatest pain you have normally brings out the greatest growth in yourself.
Wow. Wow.
And when you don't navigate that pain or you keep pushing it aside, it will follow you to your next role. So whenever I do have something that makes me feel uncomfortable, I don't ask why me. I always ask myself, what is this trying to teach me and what skill gap do I have?
Wow.
And then that normally changes, as you master that, you normally give service to somebody else from that lesson. So as a leader in an organization, though, purpose is really critical because if everybody does not feel valued, that's from a relationship perspective, if they are not compensated adequately, and if they don't enjoy what they're doing, then you're never going to get the full dynamic of what you want. Yeah. So as a leader, you got to be clear that everybody knows where you're going, they buy in, they know what's in it for them, and you are adding value to them. I've seen a big difference in the role that I'm in now as managing director of Robit. When I took over, the place was not in a very good space, I would say. Wow. So in the first 2 weeks, I had to bring in like it was almost a 2 million order. In order to stabilize, I've taken profitability from where it is to the double digits. Wow. And the point that I'm trying to make is not about the great results. It's about how you take people on the journey and the results follow. Yeah. So people needed to understand where we're going, how we're going to stabilize, what's in it for them. And they had to have an environment where they appreciated the culture. It was enjoyable. They love being at work. I got off of the phone now from one of my team members and he said, you are the best leader I've ever had and I'm working for 24 years. And I'm not saying this to impress you, but what it tells you is that you got to have the heart as a leader. You got to understand that economically people need to pay for certain things. They got to love what they're doing. And if relationships are crap in your environment, you got to fix it. Wow. You can't just shy away from it or put it on HR's desk. I'm in the field with my guys.
Yes, that's what I know.
I'm there. Nobody can pull the wool over my eyes. And I also throw them in the deep end when I recognize they need to learn certain things. And once they're done, they always tell me, thank you. I never thought that having this powwow with a guy I don't like, would give me the growth. But I could see what one person's avoiding is actually what you need to put on the table. Wow. So it's never to choose sides as a leader. It's to teach your team how to navigate the things that makes them uncomfortable.
Wow. I think that's something critical in a sense where you as a leader, you are progressing and your team, they are also progressing in a sense where you are not the only one who's moving forward and everybody is left behind. Correct. And this is really one of the things that I admire. And I can attest, not only that employee, that you are an incredible leader. And we look up to you, and there are many people doing so. And in terms of the journey of this incredible work at work, maybe... take us through the journey of when did it start for you to have that idea of like, okay, I need to write a book and being able to document my journey. And I know that this is a great book, especially for not only for women, because I know that you are a pioneer and a champion of diversity inclusion, but even female and male colleagues are able to look at the book and see how to treat the female counterpart in the workspace. So it's really a masterpiece not only for ladies but also for gentlemen. So maybe take us through, when did it? When did you get that moment?
Yeah, like I said, it was by accident. So when I did the dissertation, I had the research related to, do women add a competitive advantage to the mining sector? But this started in 2014, and I launched the book in 2021. And you want to hear the story of how I wrote the book, but I refused to publish it because I feared it wouldn't be good enough. So I was with my I think it was a 12-year-old. My son was 12 at the stage, and I was editing the book for maybe the fourth time, going through it. My editor sent me the details, and I was keep on changing it. And so I asked him to read it, and he said, "Mom, who are you kidding? We all know you're not going to publish this."
Wow.
And when he said that, it just hit my core, and I thought to myself, well, what kind of role model am I for him if I don't, publish the book? So I was committed, and even though we were on lockdown in 2021, I then did the launch and was really, really doing really well. And now we're on our second publication of the book, the second edition of it. So it's been exceptional. And how it started was I did the dissertation, and every time I found myself on the bathroom floor or crying in the car and did not want to go into work because it was so difficult, it became a chapter for me. And so in order for me to get it out and to solve what I was going through, I started writing. Wow. It was just a Word document, writing how I felt. And then I looked at it because I'm very analytical. And I said, well, how do I fix this? And every time I had something challenging happening to me, I analyzed it. I looked at ways to solve it and found solutions. Yeah. And before I knew it, it was almost 200 pages. Wow. There's certain chapters taken out, but each chapter was when I found myself not wanting to go on, wanting to give up. And after just putting all your feelings on a paper and solving it and realizing my purpose with those ladies, I went back in with the solution. Wow. So the book is really practical. And I did a Kenya podcast, can't remember how many months ago. And I thought, well, 2021, it's 2025. I'm sure things have changed. And a lot of the women, especially in Russia as well, they said, actually not. Wow. We have the same issues that you are raising in your book. And so now I'm advocating a bit more, and I did the second print because if we're not solving the issues and we're not bringing this to more leaders, then our children's children are going to sit here and have that conversation. The same problem. So I'm hoping that leaders read the book, adapt what they need to, and also women going through a tough time, if they can find out exactly what's their challenges and look at ways of implementing what I've implemented. There wasn't a book like this for me when I was going through this. Yes. And when I went through challenging times in my career, I would go to senior women and ask them what to do. And they would tell me, keep quiet and do as you're told. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Wow. So this is the book I wish I had in my 20s. And I hope that women don't have to go through what I've been through. I hope that as leaders, we have a much more inclusive environment. We tackle things head on. We equitable, and we change the landscape for the generations to come.
Wow. And for us, we are quite fortunate. The next generation that they did not have a reference, but now going forward, there's a reference.
That's true.
And that's what. I believe it's needed because there's the first person who need to initiate the conversation, who need to do the work so that the rest will not suffer. And this is one of the work that is a legacy project, and that will even go beyond what you have done or beyond what you may think in terms of your reach or the original intention of the book. And taking us into the issues of diversity. Maybe what's your take into, because I know that especially at the moment we are facing a big challenge, which is high unemployment in South Africa. Correct. And when we go into the rest of Africa, it's even worse, simply because there's no proper barometer of analyzing proper stat or what. So the numbers that are there are not the true reflection of what's on the ground. So I just want us to really to get your thoughts in terms of the diversity. What are those barriers? What is it that need to be done in order for us really to move into experiencing proper diversity, equity, and inclusion?
It's a long question. It's going to be a longer answer. In my opinion, there's no right and wrong approach to it. Each situation is different. But where we go wrong is that we need to understand as leaders, diversity leads to a competitive advantage. So if you're a leader or you're a shareholder and you're a manager in an organization, you got to ask yourself, do you want return on investment? Do you want increased sales? Do you want to improve your competitive advantage against your competitors? And would you want that?
Yes, of course.
So what you need to do is, create more diversity, because when you have a diverse workforce, you think differently. Yeah. You do things differently. You analyze. It's different ideas. It's different years of experience. And I'm not only talking gender and race. I'm talking different sectors. Throwing me in from supply chain is a form of diversity. Yes. I come from a diverse sector. I wasn't able to do things the same way that mining engineers did it. So we're talking 2014, I had no mining network. And I used LinkedIn to reach out to mine managers and say, hey, do you want to reduce your drilling consumables by 20%? Let's have a meeting and I'll show you how. And in those times, my team members said, you're irritating customers.
Wow.
But look at that. LinkedIn now is one of the leading professional and networking platforms. So it's just that different thinking adds a lot of value, and there's enough research. We don't need another case study to prove that diversity gives you the financials and the competitive advantage. So for me as a leader, the work starts with yourself. You got to say, what am I going to do for this generation? What steps can I do to change the policies? Am I going to be brave enough to open my mouth when I see somebody's idea is taken? Am I going to be dismissive of things raised to me? And it starts with the leader, because if you put your head on the pillow, you got to say, I've done the right thing. And certain organizations are not brave enough to encourage diversity, and then those are not the organizations to be in. Wow. To be quite honest. Yeah. Go where you celebrate it, because if you don't have that happiness element, you're not going to know. No amount of money and fulfillment is going to give you, that. So if the relationship is bad and the money is good, you just have two elements that's not balancing. So to tell you the long way around, diversity can add a lot of value to organizations. We need to make sure we have the right people at those decision-making tables, and it starts from the top. I was brave enough to change a lot of the policies when I came on board. I looked at shareholding. I looked at salary ranges. And let's be honest, we can't fix years and years of discrepancies when it comes to parity on salaries. But what we can do is we can budget how many can we fix within the next year and budget for that, and how many can you fix for the following year. And employees see that. They see that, okay, look, 3 of the guys were addressed. The following year, the next 3. And they stay with you. They're loyal. They see the progress. We did a small thing. I could not budget for a big change, for a value that needed to be added to certain team members. So I looked at what we could do, and we did not commit anything. But in December, we were able to give every single person a voucher that was split equally. Wow. 4 checkers. It was not a form of remuneration, but it was a form of thank you. You could buy groceries, and you could buy your kids' school fee, your school stationery with it. And those are the little things I did. I said, okay, right, we don't have budget to do X, Y, Z for somebody. Can we take this portion and equally split it amongst everyone? And nobody knew. They got this message to say, hey, you're going to be getting this. And the amount of gratitude we got just to do small little things, because as leaders, your decision that you're making may make somebody on another level almost reach a poverty line or below. And you got to use that landscape to think. I had a dialogue again today with my team. We were having this issue with internal and external team members and the value. And I said, well, if the internal people don't feel valued, what's the risk? And the risk is your customers won't be taken care of, your lead times will drop, quality, service, all of this. So they looked and they said, wow. And I said, so, and if the sales team feel that they're not heard, what's the risk then? We don't have sales, we lose business, we retrench people. And so when we played both sides of it, they both understood it's important for both of us to work together.
Yes.
The common ground is for us to reach an agreement, put a process and work together. And so that's the way I look at diversity, is the same way as what little steps can you take? How do you lead an inclusive culture? And how do we make an impact? There's so much, that we look at regarding triple BE and the way things are going. But there's ways to embrace that. There's ways that organizations can bring in the youth, train them up. It's almost seen as a burden versus embracing it. I utilize the students we have where we skill them up so that they're employable.
Wow.
Rather than leaving the intern to make coffee. One of the interns I took at one of my organizations, she was making coffee and I saw her and I walked in again and the next day and I said, what are you doing? She said, no, I'm making coffee. I said, so you're not here to make coffee. You're here to learn as much as you can so you get a permanent role. And I put her in and I said, you're going to observe strategy and you're going to document it. And I threw her into really tough roles as well as the guy that was with me. And they're both mine engineers now.
Wow.
They text me saying, thank you for not treating me like an intern. So for me, it's perspective. Are you going to treat somebody like an intern because you have to comply with BEE and regulations? Or are you going to treat that person as a human and impart as much knowledge as you can? And that life impacts 5 more lives. And when you're 90, you're not going to remember your bank balance and your title. You're going to remember how many lives you impacted.
Wow.
That's
incredible. I think you said it well, that you need really to think as a leader, how many life are you changing, how many life are you touching? And then in terms of unemployment, I know that it's one thing that every day you want to fight against.
Yes.
And if we have to look at it from the side of the listeners who are, because there are many factors at the moment where on one side we have economic factors that are pushing company to close down and all of profitability. But on the other side, there's technology that is also affecting where automation in terms of mining operation, work that could have been done maybe by 50 people a few years ago, now a few people are able to do it. So as a leader, if we have to look at it from both sides in terms of what needs to be done to affect positively the employment market from workers' perspective and also from employer perspective, I think your insight will be quite amazing.
A very good question. So for me, if somebody is unemployed and on the other side of the call, it's really important that we fix the poverty mindset firstly. So if you're employable or you need a role, I think it's really important that we look at the narrative because, the words we speak, becomes your thoughts and your thoughts become your actions. And everybody knows this stuff, but it has a big impact. It's important that if you're unemployed, you start affirming better words to find employment. And you can change your lifestyle because 80% of the goal is really made up with your mindset. So if you can change the words you're saying, the thoughts you're having, 80% of the work's done. It's 20% of handing your CVs, starting a startup, meeting the right network to make it happen. So it's not as difficult. I believe that we have a life that's filled with abundance and we're meant to live a joyful life. It shouldn't be, here or there. It should be a life that you're planning, a life that you enjoy. It's abundant. So if somebody is unemployed, I really would like them to change the mindsets. It's really important. We remember in Africa, our mindset, it's ingrained in us to have this poverty mindset. But we got to have an abundant mindset. Know what you want. Every day, affirm you're going to get it. And make sure that 20% you take the action. So that's the first thing. As leaders in the sector and in Southern Africa, I've come across from a lot of traveling recently. And I noticed that the unemployment rate in India is only 3%.
Wow.
And when I was there, I was asking myself, well, what makes India so different from Africa? We're almost on 40%. The numbers are not accurate because we don't quantify it. And I looked at their mindset. Their mindset is entrepreneurial.
Wow.
It's entrepreneurial. Our African mindset is poverty. Somebody didn't do this and this is where I am. We got to fix our mindset. We got to have an abundant mindset. And I saw guys selling leaves. So there's entrepreneurs that are selling leaves called Bitter Leaf, and they serve it, they pick it, they serve it, and that guy feeds his family. But they're hustling all the time. You just hear people screaming all the time and trying to sell. I saw the amount of recycling happening in India was remarkable. The infrastructure, I was amazed at what I'm seeing, and I only want to bring that back to our continent and make sure we start thinking like that. We start thinking, the guys took palm trees and they made them into light bulbs. Then they took little banana leaves and made that into flutes. So the guy is whistling along, and I just supported him because this is great. So each guy is hustling to feed his family. They're not going to go to bed hungry. They're going to do what they can to fix something, make something. And in Africa, we have the skill set. We need to do what's within our control, is fix the mindset. And this brings me to what I do. So I started Women at Work in 2019 as an organization just to assist women. I do a lot of international speaking engagements to create an awareness so women we could have parity and equitable leaders in the African continent. And then I noticed that there isn't rooms and doors opened for everyone, not just females. And a lot of my people that I deal with, I would do a Kenya podcast and a Ghana, and I did a Nigeria one, and then I did the Russian one and Indian. And then I noticed that there's so many opportunities, but nobody is opening a platform for everybody to talk. So I'm starting Women at Work Hub, which will be launched on International Women's Day, where almost 11 countries of different women leaders are coming on board. And there's almost 400 leaders that are C-suite that will be showcasing their businesses. And it's the second edition of my book. So it was really a perfect opportunity to get more female leaders and entrepreneurs from all around the world to meet together, put together a business canvas model. We're going to be doing some vision boarding. We're doing biz dating. So there's different, tables that people will be sitting in, networking, and I'm trying to match the sectors, and so that we can start having these discussions. And something that was really great in India was CNG energy. So
tell us more about that.
So they basically take their garbage and they repurpose it as fuel for their vehicles. So they have the tanks underneath their vehicles, and you can either fill via CNG or fuel, petrol if you want, or diesel, and it's OEM fitted. And I know Nigeria is doing it as well, but why not in South Africa? So I want to get the right people in the rooms to have these discussions and make sure that we have more entrepreneurs in Africa, that you can take technology and energy dynamics that are working in different areas and work with it. So the type of caliber of people that apply to join, they have to go through an assessment. It's not open to everyone. I'm only looking at people that have new technology we can use in our African continent, and making sure that the right people, their credentials match up to people in the room, and we can create more entrepreneurs here. So there will be government officials as well, but that's what we need to do. We need to create more entrepreneurs if we can't impact the employment rate
100%.
as business owners. And we need to also pivot to other sectors, other technology. So I'm very excited. The 8th of March is around the corner, but each leader needs to take some action. Either when you're doing your BEE criteria, you're setting out the number of students and programs, look at who you can impact. And I also have a a list of a lot of recruiters reach out to me and say, do you know of this person in this role? So I have a database at Women at Work Hub where, you can have all these accredited businesses that link up and they're trusted partners.
Yes.
So if you're looking for candidates, they would trust your organization. I know you go through a vetting process. But a lot of networking events have the events and nobody does anything.
Wow.
So now everything is linked. You go through an assessment process. Your business deals are guaranteed to work in terms of the caliber of individuals we have. And it takes away the risk factor quite a bit. So you won't just have anyone that doesn't have audited financials on the listing, a registered company. So we would check whether their LinkedIn profile matches. They need a passport, a tax number. So those are all the different things we're putting in as checks and balances. So this is almost like Tinder for businesses.
That's the best way of presenting it. Really Tinder for business. That's quite amazing.
Global businesses. And I think there's a lot of females doing great work.
Yes.
That we just need to get them to engage a bit more. And even you're doing a great job now. We're excited with how you're launching the recruitment program and stuff like that. But no one knows.
Wow.
And everyone phones me. And I thought, well, if you keep phoning me, I can't get to stuff. Wow. How do I put this all together? So it's a pilot, and I'm excited.
No, I think we are all excited about this, and it's all about, as you say, giving back. The end goal is really to implement, and yes, indeed, government can do as much as they can, but the rest, when entrepreneurs are able to be at the party, when the business are successful, that's where they create employment. And at the end of the day, it affects GDP, it affects Gini coefficient, all these metrics. So we don't really need just to rely on the government. So I think I'm quite happy and excited about this.
It is. Like Loop was something I was introduced to in November. Loop is a little app that you can pay somebody on WhatsApp.
Wow.
So you scan the code. It was developed by somebody in Cape Town, and I'm not being paid for this or anything. So the guy just paid me. He said, "What's your WhatsApp number?" I clicked on the link. He paid me R1. He's like, "You don't need a bank account." So how can we trade in Africa using Loop? So it's kind of a wallet. When you need it, you can draw it out, but it allows taxi drivers not to allow people to carry cash. So if you have WhatsApp, you pay via Loop, 10 Rand, 20 Rand. Domestic workers can do that, people going on a train. So it's really great stuff. So there's a lot of technology. As much as we're saying technology is replacing roles, we also need to ask ourselves, not why me, you got to say, try me in this. And try me. Try something different. Pivot. We got to pivot on the African continent. That's really critical.
Wow. Well, I think it's amazing. And one of the things regarding your journey to the top, it's not only about getting there, but it's staying there. So we would like just to understand, what is it that it takes for you to stay at the top and for you to stay relevant?
Yeah, so to stay relevant, it's really about leading with your heart and being authentic. People can sense when you're fake and you're just doing this for your own gain. So as a leader, for me, it's really important to take my people across. And we've already, it's the 14, what's today, 17th? We've already drafted who needs to do what, by when. You walk out of the room knowing what you need to bring to the table. Wow. So it's your people, it's understanding why you're there, and also giving the best you can. There's one thing about saying when you reach the top, you got to work 20, 30 hours. I had a health scare last year that put me out for almost 3 months. And it really changed my mindset, because for 3 months I was medicated to rewire my brain because the nerves were sending pain to my face all the time. And it made me think as a leader that you got to look at prioritizing yourself. Everyone wants, and you want to grow, and go as fast as you can. And I want to really bring leaders down to say, you got to rest. The one greatest commodity you have is your health.
Wow.
So chasing and chasing and chasing is going to serve nobody. So I encourage my teams to work your 8 hours. Your laptop needs to be shut down the moment the sun sets.
Wow.
Because the danger of the lighting, I'm not sure if you're aware of what's happening in the mitochondria in your body.
Wow.
So it's affecting, all this artificial light is not good for you. We're meant to rest in the evenings and not burn the midnight oil all the time. And most leaders are doing that. So I'd like to encourage leaders to have a more flexible working environment where your team works 8 hours. When it's required, you can do that, but it shouldn't be in order to achieve greatness, you got to work until your body breaks.
Wow.
And that was my big takeaway is in order to stay relevant, I can be great at what I'm doing within 8 hours. And if I can't do it within 8 hours, it will wait for tomorrow. Because if I am half fueled, how much can I contribute if I'm burnt out?
Correct.
And so many leaders are being burnt out and they have cancers and health scares. So I'd like to encourage more people. Don't do that. Be a leader that works your 8 to 5 when required. It's important for you to then put in the time. So that's what I'm for. I'm for a healthy life, a happy life, and making an impact.
Yeah, and with that, I love it because, to be honest, many people, they've bought the narrative that when you are a leader, when you become a CEO, an MD operating at your level, there's no more life. And such decision affect families where children, family dynamics, all of it's put on hold because of such position. So
Correct.
it's just eye-opening to see another side of it that you are sharing with us. And the good thing is you are practicing what you're saying. And with that now, it comes an element of prioritization. So how do you get the most with you as a leader? What are these things that you help your team with or implement that help them to maximize? Because sometimes people justify that 8 hours it's not enough. That's why they want more. So how do you maximize your 8 hours to get the best out of it?
Yes. So it's fashionable to work more than 8 hours.
Yes.
Society has conditioned us to think like that. And I used to do that as well, especially in the role we are in. You travel extensively, right? And you've got to travel far, then you've got to get to the mine, and, it's all over the place. It's the exception. It shouldn't be the norm.
Wow.
So what you got to do is you've got to work on your plan. I plan my entire team 2 quarters in advance. We've already planned where we're going, which days I'm available. And in between there, you can see. So we mark each person's calendar in red, green, blue, so we know who's doing what on a whiteboard. Time management is that important to me.
Wow.
We sit together and we decide who's going to do what. Where's my time going to go for the next 2 quarters? And based on that, I would look at how much green I have, red, blue, who's going to be burnt out, who's shirking, and how do we fix it? And we have these honest conversations. I'm like, yeah, you're fine, but the first 2 weeks of April looks a bit low. What you going to do there? Wow. Okay, you overworked on this month. What you going to do there? I'm not going to make this. I have this and that going. And we plan it 2 quarters in advance. And I'm not going to give up my health. So when everyone knows where they're going, what needs to happen, it doesn't leave so much room for dilemmas. But when you constantly going without a plan, you're overworking yourself. So when something goes wrong, we're able to tackle it. We'll performance manage it, see, okay, why it happened, put an action, but we know exactly who's doing what, when, and how to navigate a problem. So a person without a plan is a person that is not going to achieve what they need to. So that's, I really take time management really seriously. We have an option now where at least our team members can work 1 day at home, because I recognize if you have to travel in the mining sector so many days,
yes, takes a lot.
How many days are you seeing your family?
Yes.
And as MD, I asked that question. Like, when are you taking time off with your family? Which day will you work from home? Because it's important.
Wow.
So we have a group where we post, hey, I'm working from home on this day, and I recognize it. And also, you got to be in tune as a leader to your people. When they're frustrated, you got to say, hey, go and
take
leave.
some time off. Wow.
Hey, you are pushing yourself and I'm not pushing you. So I'd have one guy that would drive halfway, he'll get what he needs, he drives back. The next day he drives again. Just
Wow.
that's the amount of service he does.
Yes.
His customers constantly gives him, urgent orders, but he's so passionate. He would do that. And I'm like, you're going to burn out.
Yes.
What if you have an accident? So for me, that's really important. Is time management is strategic for us.
Wow.
It's really strategic, because if my people are positive, they're energized, they're rested, they're going to give a better service. But if I overwork them, they're going to get divorced, they're going to get sick, tired. It's not good. So there's positive and negative.
Wow. And at the end of the day, it affects productivity. When you have healthy and happy employees, it's also affected positively. So we almost at the end. So some of the things that we just want to get from you, it's what are the trends in terms of leadership and senior executive? What is it that where you're sitting, you will advise leaders to look out for? What are the trends in terms of technology, in terms of the mining industry, in terms of sales, all of it? What are maybe some of the top trends that will have a ripple effect or transform the way we're doing business in the medium to long term?
Yes, so it's quite important that as leaders we look at the impact of digitalization as well as copyright and confidentiality of AI. Because we have embraced so much of AI, we're not aware of who's listening to what. Are we infringing copyrights? And those are the things as leaders we need to safeguard us. How up to date are our security systems? It is really important that we look at the strengths of digitalization and automation, but we also look at the downsides of it. That's quite crucial for me. So the upside for me is it can ease your workload. It can make things a lot easier for us. And we got to do that. We got to do that a bit more. We got to train our workforce. I don't know if you listened to the talk I did about digitalization. Can't remember the exact number right now. But if South Africa can embrace digitalization, we should be able to increase GDP, if I could just remember, by 186 million.
Wow.
Or billion, can't remember, million or billion. I'll give you the stats in your comments.
Yes.
But that is great. So why couldn't we, or why can't the mining sector embrace digitalization? It's because we don't have a trained workforce. We don't have people that can interpret the data and the technology. And we don't have one supplier that can integrate all the data. So each person has their own set of automation and no one is bringing that together. And the organizations that are doing it are really quite expensive and it's difficult to bring it together. So it's important that you have a digital strategy as an organization. You leverage it the healthy way and train your people, to develop that skill. So if we have all this unemployment, somebody that's sitting at home thinking, I've just finished matric, it's important for them to look at those careers. How do you interpret visualization of data? How do you interpret dashboards? How do you interpret AI? How do you use that in your career? Marketing is big. Social media is big. People look at you now by how many followers do you have versus, hey, this is what I've actually achieved.
Yes.
So it's a really exciting time to be a leader. The trends are really around digitalization, healthy energy, reducing carbon emissions, and those are things we can use to our advantage.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And if we would like, I know you are very busy. It's hard to get hold of you.
Correct.
But I know also that you always make time for training, youth developments, projects like the one that you're launching on the 8th of March.
Yes.
But if someone would like to get in touch with you, and also someone would like to have Women at Work, a copy of Women at Work, how do we get hold of you?
Thanks. So you can reach me on www.rumisha.com. That's my website. And on there, you can buy the book, you can book me or see if I am available, as well as on Take a Lot. So the book is available on Take a Lot too.
Wow. No, that's I know for sure that I'm going to get a copy because,
Thanks.
and if also someone does not know how to get a copy, feel free to reach out to all our social media platforms,
Yes.
and we will redirect it to Rumisha. So
Perfect.
for us, what an honor to have you. And
Thank
we
you.
truly appreciate the time. And I know for sure that all the listeners, they've
Thanks, Benny.
gained so much insight, wisdom from your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here and continue what you're doing because it's serving people.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Really appreciate. So we've reached the end of our program, and we're really looking forward to all your comments, all your questions, and we are anticipating the next exciting episode. So thank you so much. Au revoir.
Thank you.